Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie and we are here. Sorry for the delay, we had a little bit of a technical problem, but we're here and we're ready to get started with the candied orange peel. So the candied orange peel, it's something that you'll see oftentimes, and typically a lot you'll be seeing this a lot in Europe. And the candied orange peel can be eaten after it's candied, or you can use it in a lot of different desserts. So the orange peels that we're going to be making today, I'm going to be coating them with sugar. So you can eat them sugared, and we're also going to be coating them, dipping them in chocolate, and you can eat them just like that. And you can also cut these up and put these in a variety of desserts. You can cut the orange peel up and put it in the classic fruit cake, or in some scones, or any type of a quick bread that's a little heavier that can hold them. And you can also serve them on top of ice cream with a little bit of the syrup that we're going to be making these in. So they're lots of fun. It's a process and it takes some time. So I have some stages prepared that we're going to be going through the whole process, and I think you'll like this if you haven't made these before. So please let me know if you've ever made these before. I'm interested to hear. Okay, so I've got a couple of things going over here. So after you cut the orange peel, you're going to blanch the orange peel, and then you're going to cook it in a heavy syrup. And then you're going to dredge it in some granulated sugar, leave it to dry, and then you can also make some that are unsugared and dip them in chocolate. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So knowing that, let's get started. So I'm just using a regular navel orange that I got at the grocery store, and they were on sale too, so I grabbed a bag of them. So I made lots of orange peels. So let's go ahead. We're just going to be cutting the ends off the orange, and then we're just going to be taking the peel, and you're going to want to be careful not to take off the pulp. And you know, sometimes our peels, they can have a lot of the whiteness. You can trim some of that off, and we are going to be cutting these in about 1/4 inch strips. And I like to kind of clean mine off a little bit, and I save my scraps to use in my creme brulee, or even in some marmalade. So this is exactly the size of these strips. These are just a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch. This is how I like to make mine. So once you cut your oranges and you have these orange peels, you're going to blanch them. It's in some going to blanch these on the stove. And what you're going to do, I have some started here right now. So they're just getting a little bit warm. Okay, so when you're blanching, you're starting these out in cold water. You're going to put cold water from the tap in the pot with the orange peels, and then you're going to let them simmer. Well, not really simmer, you're just blanching them. You're just going to warm them, and you're not cooking these like crazy. You're just blanching them because it's going to go through 3 blanches. And the purpose of the blanch is to, you're softening the peels, and it takes away the bitterness, because you really wouldn't eat an orange peel just dipped in chocolate. So you have to go through this blanching process. So some recipes that you see, you'll have they'll blanch the peels 2 times, but I like to blanch mine 3 times, and it takes away that bitterness. So once we blanch these, we're going to be putting these in some ice water. And the ice water and the cold water in the beginning, this helps with the oil in the orange. It helps keep some of that oil, which is a lot of flavor in the orange peel. So please let me know if you have any questions. Okay. So we're going to leave these blanch a little bit, then we're going to strain them and put them in some ice water. Okay, so as they're blanching, they're going to curl up a little bit too, and you're going to see that your water is going to it's going to have a little bit of orangeness in it, and that's why we change the water too, getting all that bitterness out. Okay. So I have some peels that I started in syrup over here, and we'll talk about those in just a minute, but I got them started, and I'm keeping a watchful eye on them. Okay, so I really don't bring my peels like up to a simmer. I just, I blanch these until my water starts to steam and right before it actually comes to a simmer. As you kind of see it starting. Okay, so these look great. Okay, we're going to turn this off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my peels and my syrup over here so you can take a look at these getting started. So it's a process and we're simmering these on slow. Okay, so let's go ahead and strain these. Okay, so, oh, hold on, we got some beeping here. Okay. All right, so we have our peels. So I've strained these, and these are the first blanch. So I've got these on ice. And I'm going to chill these. Okay, so once these are chilled, they're going to go back in the pot and they're going to be blanched again. And I use the same pot, I just rinse it out, and that'll be the second blanching. And then you'll do the same thing, you'll repeat the process. Once they're blanched, you're going to strain them, put them in ice water, and then you're going to blanch one more time. So I recommend blanching these 3 times. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this aside and let's take a look at some peels that I've blanched. Okay. All right. So these are some peels which have the 3rd blanch. And as you can see, they are they're softer. They're a little bit softer, and some of the whiteness is gone too, and some of the bitterness is gone with these too. So once you blanch these 3 times, that's when you're going to be cooking them in the syrup. So I started some syrup earlier because this takes about 45 minutes to do this. So what you're going to do is, this is a heavy simple syrup. It's about 4 cups of sugar with about maybe a cup or a cup and a quarter of water. So it's a heavy syrup. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring your syrup to a simmer on the stove for about 8 to 9 minutes. If you have a Candied thermometer, you can check the temperature, and it's going to be about 230 degrees. But I usually just time mine. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add the peels into the syrup. And you're going to let these gently simmer, just as I have it here, just on a real low simmer. And this is going to be for about 45 minutes. So if you see it kind of getting away a little bit and coming to a rumbling boil, then go ahead and lower it a little bit. And what you're going to do is, you don't have to wash this down, and you're not going to stir it, but you're just going to swirl these around every now and then like I'm doing here. Okay, so the peels are really going to start changing in color like these are. So we'll get a little comparison. So this is kind of how they started. So they're pretty orange, and as you can see, they're turning kind of almost a rusty orange color, and you can almost see the softness. And this is how the peel becomes sweet and it becomes more edible. So we're just going to let this simmer for a couple of minutes, and I know it's kind of back and forth a little bit, but I want to see how you guys are doing and if you have any questions while this is on a slow simmer.
Chef, is it possible to do any kind of fruit, like lime, maybe like pink grapefruit, anything, or is it just orange?
You could do any kind of fruit. You could definitely do lemons and grapefruit. Lime has a tendency to be, for me, it's just a little bit more bitter, but it'll work as well. And maybe for the lime, you could make those strips a little bit thinner, but you can definitely explore different citrus fruits with this. And there's the Meyer lemon would be nice to make candied. It has a little bit more of almost a floral-y, and sometimes people say that it tasted a little sweet. So it's a seasonable lemon, and I like the Meyer lemon, and I think that would work great.
Okay.
Okay. And do we have any other questions while our peels are just kind of working on their own? It's kind of getting a little bit heated up here. It's a little bit rumbling, so I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. And like I said, swirl, but be careful. Be sure that your pot is deep enough when you're swirling. Don't splash on yourself. So always with these hot sugars, safety always comes first. So we're just going to leave this kind of simmer on its own. Then what we're going to do is we're going to strain this. And we're going to finish off the peels. What we'll do is we'll put some to dry, and then we'll put some in some granulated sugar. Okay, so do we have any questions? Yep. Okay.
With the syrup that's left over, could you use it as your simple syrup on a cake?
You can. What you're going to want to do is, this syrup is so full of flavor, definitely save it. And you can use it on your cake. It's a thicker syrup. You might want to thin it down, but some people will use it in teas, and you can use it for a flavored sweetener in any way, but definitely save the syrup. But be careful, because I've had mine seize up and crystallize on me because maybe there's something in the pot or maybe something in the sugar. So be mindful that you're always, your sugar is always clean. If you think maybe something got into your sugar, like you were working in a kitchen and you were busy and you noticed someone put the flour scoop in there one day and there was a little bit of flour on top, that's okay for your cookies. But if you get that in your sugar syrup, it could cause it to crystallize and seize. So oftentimes pastry chefs will grab a new bag of sugar when they're doing something like this, especially if you have a big pot and you've just trimmed and sliced maybe 30 oranges. You don't want something to happen with those. So grab a clean bag of sugar for sure. And another thing too is the pot. I always keep a pot for making sugar solutions in the kitchen, and it's I'll use it for other things, but I'll be mindful if I'm working in a hotel or a restaurant not to let that pot get up to the kitchen and get some grease residue or something on it that's not cleaned off all the way. So I always keep a pot that's just for sugar, because like I said, you don't want this to seize up on you, because it's a lot of work, and this is taking 45 minutes just for these little ones. Can you imagine if you were making like 200 of these and it seized up on you? So just be mindful of those things. And another thing that some pastry chefs do, and I've heard of pastry chefs in France doing this. They'll add a little bit of granulated sugar to this mixture before they roll the peels in the sugar, just for a little bit more of a granulated effect. So that's a possibility to explore as well. But these are definitely fun to make, and they're really easy. Just be careful, this syrup is quite hot. So when you're, like I said, swirling it around, make sure your pot is deep enough where it's not coming up and going to land on your thumb or your hand. Okay, so I'm going to take these off in just a minute. They're kind of working on their own. And does anyone have any questions? Oh, okay. All right. Well, another thing I wanted to mention too is what you can do, you can kind of enhance the flavor with these. Sometimes when I'm done with my simmering, I'll put a vanilla bean in there and kind of let it steep for a little bit, just for a little extra flavor. You could also put in a couple of cinnamon sticks, but I do that after I'm done with my simmering, just to be careful so there isn't any seizing. When it's done, then I'll add a little flavoring. I'll explore some things like the vanilla bean or the cinnamon stick, because I'm not adding any liquid or water to the mixture. So these look great. They changed in color. You can see they're nicely cooked. You can see the softness when I'm swirling these. And these are going to be hot, so be careful with them. So what I usually do is I'll just spoon them out, or you can use a strainer. But I prefer just to spoon these out because I don't have too many here. And, oh, did we have a question?
Yes. How long would the syrup keep, and how would you store it?
Well, the syrup, you can keep it for, I would say, at least a month because it's just sugar and water. I don't like to keep things around for too long, so I might keep it for 2-3 weeks, and you can keep it in the refrigerator. It'll store just fine in there. Okay, so these peels look great, and let's go ahead and do a comparison. So this is how we started. Okay, that's our peel that we started with. Well, maybe I'll pull them out onto the board. It's a little hot, but I'll put my glove on. Okay, so let's kind of like backtrack a little bit. We'll do a little comparison. Okay, so this is where he ended up, which is a nice, almost translucent peel. And this was our peel that was in our third blanch. And this is our peel that we started with. So you can see that we came a long way with these, and you can just see the sweetness in the candied peel. It got a little bit smaller. That's why I cut these just a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch. You could probably make them a little bit bigger or a little bit thinner. Maybe if you were using them for a topping, you might want to make them a little bit thinner. And if you're dipping them in chocolate, you might want to make them a bit thicker. But I think that the 1/4 inch is a great size to work with. So there's our comparison. Okay, so keep in mind, these are hot, and I can even feel it through the gloves. So be careful when you're handling these. So let's go ahead and we're going to dredge some of these in sugar. And they are sticky. So you could do this with your gloves or without, but look, my gloves are already sticking together. So they're pretty sticky. You're going to have to do some hand washing or some glove changing in between. So what you can do is you can just, take one of your racks and you can just put these peels on here. I'm just going to put some plain ones on here. Oh, maybe this isn't the best rack. The holes are just a little big, but we'll get them on there. And you can let these dry just like this, and then you can go ahead and dip these in chocolate once they dried. Typically these dry for about 5 hours. Okay, so we'll line up some peels here. And then we'll go ahead and dredge some in some granulated sugar. And don't worry about getting them perfect. If there's some big chunks after they firm up and dry out, you can kind of break those off a little bit. But you're just going to be dredging these in sugar, and then you're going to put them on your rack to dry. So it's super easy. So like I said, it's a process. It took some time. Remember, do 3 blanches. If you like, you can do 2, but I highly recommend 3. And if your peels are a little bit thick, when you take the peel off the orange and you have a lot of that whiteness on there, you can go ahead and trim some of that off too. Or you can increase your cooking time if they're a little bit bigger. So for this size, you want to stick with about 45 minutes. And they make a great topping for ice creams. And I even put my little pieces in here because I kind of snack on those. I had a whole bunch of these last night. Okay, so there's some peels that have been dredged in granulated sugar. I'm just using regular sugar. You can use the superfine if you want, but I wouldn't use anything like sugar in the raw. Just stick with your white granulated sugar. Okay, so here they are. They are ready to be eaten. And for a thicker sugar coating, you can even you can dip them in the syrup again, and then you can get something a little bit thicker. Just be careful not to get any, any sugar in your syrup. So for a little bit of a thicker coating, go ahead and dip it in the syrup again first. And this is where you might get some of those chunks, but those can be good as well, right? Okay, so does anyone have any questions on drying or dredging the peels in granulated sugar? So like I said, these are going to dry for about 5 hours. If you're living where there's a lot of humidity, it may take a little bit longer. And it was a little humid here last night. I let them dry overnight and they were just fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ones that are dried that I made last night. Okay, so these are our dried peels. You can handle these so easily. You can serve them and eat them just like this, or you can chop them up and put them in your fruit cake or in your scones, and just a variety of different desserts. You can serve them on ice cream as well. So we have our, oops, I'm just going to go ahead and move this like this. Okay, so we have our peels that I just let to dry, that I didn't dredge in the sugar, and then we're going to go ahead and dip these in some chocolate. So these are still a little sticky, and they kind of do hold their stickiness. So we'll just grab some chocolate and we'll dip these in some chocolate. So these are a nice little dessert. Oftentimes in Europe you'll see these, served with a little coffee. So we're just going to go ahead and dip them. Oops, oh, we won't dip that one. Okay, so we're going to dip these, about 3/4 of the way. And I just have some tempered dark chocolate. Like I said, they're a little sticky. What you can do is you can sprinkle some nuts on these if you want. You can even use some sprinkles, but I just like to add just a little bit of crunch. And I'm just dipping these. Like I said, they are a little sticky, and they're typically going to look a little different. And what you can do when you lay these out to dry, you can straighten them out a little bit to have them a little bit more uniform, but I just kind of let them work on their own. And does anyone have any questions on the orange peel or how to finish them?
How long would you store the orange peels without the chocolate, and how would you store them?
Okay, so the orange peels that are sugared, the ones that we dredged in the sugar, you could keep those, depending on your environment, in an airtight container. You can keep them for weeks. They should be okay. If you notice that they're starting to get a little sticky, you're going to want to, use them or eat them. Maybe that would be time to make some scones or something, or just serve them on some ice cream. So this is really nice. It's a nice little garnish as well. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll dip the last couple that we have, and like I said, we got some different shapes and sizes, and you can straighten these out a little bit before you dry them. It is kind of hard, but if you're looking for something that's more exact, you can get them a little more uniform. And like I said, they are ready to serve, and I'm sure that your friends and family will love these. They're super delicious, and if you notice that your peels are, a little bitter, just try cooking them a little bit more the next time, and they'll take away some of that bitterness. Okay, so these are our peels. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some almonds. Like I said, pistachios look really nice too, and you can even put some sprinkles or some of those little nonpareil little ball things on there, and could even add some colors for the holiday. Okay, so these are orange peels. So let's go ahead and put some, I have a little plate here, a little stand, and the orange peels will look nice on here. And please let me know if you have any questions. And what's nice about these is, they're firm and they're crystallized, so you can kind of stack them up. And once the chocolate ones are set, you can go ahead and put those on here too. But definitely explore the orange peels. And like I said, they're nice to be eaten just as they are. They're great for garnishes, something nice and crispy. And they're also great chopped up and put in things like scones and quick breads and cakes that are a little bit heavier. So thanks a lot for joining me today, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.